The birth of civilization was the beginning of man's existence on the planet as we know it. But before we can praise the advancements of the human race, we must trace its history back to humble beginnings, back to a time when language was still forming at its roots, and technology was the difference between survival and death. Let's take a trip back in time to the birth of civilization. Despite what we commonly think, there were actually several birthplaces of the Neolithic Revolution. The one we tend to think of, however, is that of the Fertile Crescent, where several major civilizations developed, such as the Sumerians, Assyrians, Phoenicians, and Babylonians. From the Neolithic Revolution, we see man's evolution from a nomadic hunter-gatherer to a sedentary villager, to a creature who first learns to master his environment, and finally to the product we see today, where man not only sees his power over the earth as a survival luxury, but rather as a right to have power over the land he walks upon. The ability to think and create is what separates man from animal and gives humans the self-proclaimed right to dominate the world we live in. The road to civilization was one long treaded upon, and was a gradual and laborious process. Before progress could be made, the most important step was to secure a stable food surplus. This was required before any civilization could either be produced or advanced. For example, nomads could not settle into creating permanent settlements because their absence of a reliable food source forced them to continue roaming and following the trail of newly ripened foods and moving herds of animals. As long as daily survival was unsure of and starvation was imminent, men and women could never have hope of being spared enough hours in the day to invent or draw or write the records needed for historians to consider a group a civilization or not. Similarly, water was an important feature of the formation of civilization. In fact, water is more essential to life than food itself because a human can last weeks without food, but only days without water. This is why all of the major civilizations developed around bodies of water. In addition, water provided a means of protection and later on, transportation. Without water, ancient humans would not be able to sustain crops without sufficient irrigation systems. Water facilitated life both directly and indirectly at every step of development of civilization. It is only after humans are secure in their basic physiological needs that they are allowed the extra time to begin specialized work, the first sign of what we consider the birth of civilization. In addition, a surplus of foods allows for a huge population growth, with which can be redirected towards developing tools, religions, or philosophies, reading systems and writing systems, defensive systems, and towns or kingdoms, and so on. Despite their crucial help in the birth of civilization, historians consider many of man's achievements over his environment to be the products of accidental discovery. For example, the ability to cultivate crops, the efficiency of water and irrigation systems, and possibly the practicality of domesticating animals are all accidental major breakthroughs in humankind's mastering of his environment. As men evolved in their control over the world around them, so did they develop in the world that they created for themselves. The nomadic life saw a rough gender and social equality, where every man's opinion was valued because each man was required for the survival of the group. Villages witnesses the creation of a chief and chief of elders. In towns and kingdoms, stricter divisions between social classes were formed, with the development of a ruling class, where religion and political social leaders shared their power over the underlings. The birth of civilization was the beginning of man's existence on the planet as we know it.